awesome. That was absolutely awesome. I hope you know, and that was the first time that I saw that at the beginning of a Wine Women in Crypto. What did you think about that?
It's so great. I love it.
It was cute. I love it too. So I just like to welcome each and every one of you to Wine Women in Crypto. Today, man, I cannot believe this year is going so fast. Look, I'm moving so fast. I just got the whole bottle here. So we're gonna drink out of the bottle today. But welcome to our Wine Women in Crypto show. Today is July 1st. I cannot believe that half of the year is already gone, and we're moving right along to the end of 2021. So happy to have this fabulous guest today. I am going to just introduce her so that we can jump right in. This young lady I have known for some years now. In fact, I call her husband my blockchain husband. He
You
is
can have him, by the way, if you just need him.
he is just awesome. He's always been. And so behind every fabulous man is a fabulous woman. And I met this lady some years ago. And one thing that I can say about her is she has always been a champion for change. Anytime she could get me up to speak in some of the doors that I couldn't get in, she was the one that called me and said, "Hey, I got something for you to do. I have someplace for you to speak." And I am forever grateful for the opportunities that and the doors that she's opened up for me. This young lady, her name is Anne Willmott, and she's just so incredible. I'm gonna let her tell you about herself, but I will tell you this, that she's been a television producer or line producer. I learned what that was through her for many, many years. I'm gonna let her tell you about the show, but I remember my grandmother watching this show. So it is an iconic television show. And then she's also the founder of The Rabbit Hole, which is incredible in and of itself. I'm gonna still ask her about that. And she is also a member of this Meta Gamma Delta sorority that I wish I could join, but time just does not permit. But I'm going to ask her to tell us about that just a teeny bit too. And then she's going to jump into all the things that she is just so fabulously working on. And without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over to Mrs. Anne Willmott to tell us a little bit about herself. Hi, Anne. Welcome.
Hi, Najah. Thank you. I have to say the benefit of knowing you has definitely been mutual, and we've been rowing the boat for a while now, so I'm happy about that. And I do think you will be joining Meta Gamma Delta. We'll cover that at the end of the time. It really won't require a lot from you, and I know you got 10 DAI in there somewhere, so it's only cost 10 DAI. Yeah. But I think we need you, and I think you should join. So I haven't done StreamYard before, so I kind of had in my mind that I would ask people like, hey, what do you know about DAOs already? And then I can't see any other people. So I am going to show a presentation, but we can try to take questions. I assume there's some way to take questions at the end. I'll try to plow through this quickly. If I'm going too fast or too slow, you know, if there's any feedback about that, I'm fine with that. I'm going to share a little deck that I made, let's be honest, this afternoon, to cover a topic that I'm kind of excited about. Whoops, that's not it. That's it. So we're going to talk about decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs. I'm hoping that some people have heard of DAOs, but you may not. I think you're going to hear a lot more about this. It's a really interesting corner of the crypto universe. So a lot of you, I'm sure, understand a little bit of the workings of Bitcoin. It doesn't matter if you don't, but you basically know that it's a peer-to-peer payment system. Oh yeah, it says that on my shirt, because this shirt is the Satoshi white paper on a shirt. I know, it's a treasure. It was the only thing I needed from Bitcoin Miami that I had to take home with me. And I did have to have it. So Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer payment system. If you understand that a little bit, you understand that you like, if I want to pay Najah, I can send this direct crypto directly to her, and it won't have to go routing through a bank. or another kind of financial party. It's a direct peer-to-peer payment system. So it's decentralized because it's not mediated by a bank or another financial authority, and it's secured by kind of a flat network of nodes that are all over the world. Bitcoin, for example, has nodes all over the world that coordinate in a decentralized way. So I'm sure you all know that there is no company owner of Bitcoin. There's no central party really in Bitcoin. Bitcoin was recently, there was Bitcoin on a race car. An Indy car had Bitcoin on it, and the press said Bitcoin sponsored a race car. But of course, Bitcoin cannot sponsor a race car. Only people with Bitcoin can sponsor a race car because Bitcoin is decentralized. It's just one of the beautiful things about it. I'm going to try to talk about this without going way down the into the tech stuff. So if you don't understand something, I always think that these are good opportunities to sort of jot things down, ask questions, and or look things up afterwards if you don't know about them. I think this is fairly basic stuff, but so a DAO is similarly a peer-to-peer community that's organized by smart contract. So it's peer-to-peer because there's no central organization. Like imagine a social network like Facebook, but there's no Facebook. The members are all self-organizing. So we can all, for instance, own our own identity and decide how we want our data to be used and decide what are the rules of connecting with one another. It's peer-to-peer. It sort of disintermediates the big central parties. Is this making sense so far? Hope so. I guess somebody will just tell me if it doesn't. So this DAOs are a big dream, and I grabbed this graphic from DAOHaus. There's a lot of inspirational stuff that you can read about DAOs, and then a lot of critiques about decentralized organizations. What can go wrong? What has not been mapped out or planned yet? But the idea is that where a traditional organization is hierarchical, power is held at the top. We're all, I think, very used to organizations like this. But in a DAO, the power is shared by everybody in the organization. Like everybody's kind of a member owner. It's a collective. And again, it's organized by smart contracts. So the rules, some of the basic rules of the organization are codified into a smart contract, which is recorded and used on the blockchain. So it's that's kind of the dream and the vision. And I find it really inspirational, although like a lot of crypto things, yes, some of it will not work out well. Some of it will and has blown up. There's just a lot that remains to, it's early days, as they say in crypto all the time. Fascinating area. I'll tell you a little later about why I'm fascinated with this. So the kinds of DAOs are kind of centered around a few different things. I mentioned the idea of a social network. One really big use case is investment groups. So like Metacartel Ventures is one. This is where a bunch of people get together. Let's say that we all are crypto whales. I'm not, but maybe someday. And we all decide to put money together, a certain amount of money together, and then we're all going to invest that money in the things we think are the most important, and we're going to figure out what to invest in by voting together on and coming to consensus on what we want to invest in, and then we're going to reap the profits and split them out similarly. So the part of that involves taking proposals and voting and deciding whether or not to add new members can all be handled by smart contract in a DAO. Another example, another good use case is a nonprofit, like a grant-making organization. So as I mentioned, Meta Gamma Delta is a DAO that is geared toward funding women-led projects and in general supporting women in the ecosystem. That group is it's more like a social group. It doesn't cost a lot to join. It's easy to onboard people. It's geared towards, somebody will walk you through how to do the crypto stuff if you don't know how to do it because we want to be really friendly. But it has gone out and raised money and then given money to women-led projects, which I'm really proud of. And that's one reason I joined that DAO. Obviously, I waited a long time in life to join a sorority, but it's pretty exciting. And it is really the parody of a sorority, and it's super fun, really great women. Another thing a DAO could be is a services company. Right now, there's one called Raid Guild. There's another called DAOHaus. These operate like a regular software company where you can hire them to create Web3 sort of internet projects for you. And when you do that, when you hire them, let's say you hire them for a consultation, you basically somebody will step forward and take on your project, and then you will lock up funds, whatever funds you agree upon. So let's say you're going to pay them $500 for a consultation or something like that. You lock that crypto up in a smart contract. And once the work has been completed, everybody agrees that it's been completed, then the money gets released to Raid Guild, and the person or people who worked on the project get paid, and Raid Guild keeps a small percentage to run their operation. So any kind of company, I don't think a DAO is always appropriate, but I think any kind of company could look at whether there's sort of a self-organizing structure that's interesting. And then a publisher was just one example, because I've been thinking a lot about shows that own people that hold intellectual property and how this can work in a DAO. So Bankless is a good example. Oh, I forgot to say, yeah, you asked me, you like teased that I was going to talk about a iconic show. I'm the line producer for The Bold and the Beautiful, the daytime soap opera. And I've been there for about 13 years, and I've been doing mostly COVID work, COVID safety work in the last year. So that's that. So this is interesting because some people do consider Bitcoin to be a DAO for these reasons, because it has a pre-programmed set of rules, right? It functions autonomously, which means, the Bitcoin software the blockchain's been going since 2009, and it's reliably produced new Bitcoins every 10 minutes since then. It's running all the time on computers all over the world, and it just keeps on running autonomously, whether people, it doesn't require people to run it. And it is coordinated through a distributed consensus protocol. That's how all these computers all over the world reach a consensus on the state of the chain. So some people do consider Bitcoin to be a DAO, and I think the area of DAOs, Bitcoin and DAOs there's about to be more smart contract functionality coming to Bitcoin and around Bitcoin, like in the Liquid sidechain. And so I think that there's not a lot of use cases right now of Bitcoin DAOs, but as smart contracts become more accessible and available in Bitcoin, I don't think that's an interesting area to see. But Ethereum basically created the idea of smart contracts as a separate thing, where Bitcoin is very security oriented, very much about it being autonomous, distributed, pre-programmed, and secure. So Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, basically the guy who first came up with this idea, had a different idea, and they kind of called it a world computer. And it really was that anybody could interact with the blockchain in kind of a generalized way to build software, that not only would it handle financial transactions, but any kind of transaction. And in fact, it would store a state and therefore allow people to develop software on it. To do that, they sacrifice some amount of security in the applications that run on top of the blockchain. So I think there's a point at which Bitcoin and Ethereum are really two different philosophies, and some people don't love one or the other for that reason. I actually love both. So some of you might have probably heard of, when you hear of DAOs. You hear of the DAO from 2016 and the DAO hack. So the DAO hack, if I can cover that very briefly, was the Ethereum was launched by a group of people, and 3 months after they created a DAO to basically, they all put some of their newly mined Ethereum in there, pre-mined Ethereum in there, and they were going to spend that on Ethereum ecosystem development when Ethereum was new. 3 months after they set up the software DAO, it was hacked by somebody who located a vulnerability in the code, and they were able to exploit that vulnerability and steal a bunch of money. And it was a very long, drawn out fight, but they were able to prevent most of the money from being stolen. To do that, they ended up having to do what's called a hard fork. So if I can summarize that quickly, they kind of rolled back the clock on the blockchain to before this bad thing happened, and then forked forward from there. And the other fork was what is known as Ethereum Classic, which has the code ETC. But ETH continued without that. That was an extremely controversial move. And this is something really interesting to read about, because some of the people who will never love Ethereum will never love Ethereum because of that decision to sort of rewind the blockchain and protect the money. And you know, it's I think industry changing in the long run. That DAO did not survive that situation. And yeah, I'm just reading a book called Out of the Ether that's a lot about that. It's really fascinating. So 3 years later, that was 2016. In 2019, Amin Soleimani, a guy, came along and with some other people, and they created Moloch DAO. And in Moloch DAO, I think there was some other, by the way, DAO work that had happened in the meantime. I think Aragon DAO started, MakerDAO. There was some DAO work, but you didn't hear a lot about DAOs in that time until 2019. So they created Moloch DAO in response to that hack that had happened. So one of the biggest things was they simplified the code down to fewer lines, so there would be less sort of possibility of vulnerability. And they also just really simplified the structure so that basically most of the software just deals with, you can vote, how you vote, and what happens when you vote. So you can vote in new members, and you can vote how to use funds. In Moloch DAO, they did not produce a token. A DAO could have a token that it uses as like a utility token, but in Moloch DAO, they didn't have a token. They only wanted people to have voting rights. They didn't want people to trade a token on the side for money and all that. They really wanted people to use their, like if they put money in, then what they got back was the right to vote, and they wanted people to engage and vote. Some DAOs still work that way, and other DAOs do now produce a token that can trade on the outside. You know, if it has a token, it can be used for voting or it can trade. So the other innovation they made in Moloch DAO in 2019 was what's called Ragequitting. You don't have to be in a rage to rage quit, but what happens is when, what?
I was going to ask that, if you have to be in a rage to do rage.
You do not, thankfully. What's interesting is that when you vote, so like if you're in a DAO and you vote, there's a vote that comes up and you vote no, but enough other people vote yes and it passes, and you think that is bad and perhaps it's going to damage the DAO. It's so bad that you don't like it, then there's a grace period in voting, and you in that time can quit and take your money out, because you're saying basically, I don't support that decision. And then the people who did support it can't rage quit during that time because they've supported it. They kind of need to take the responsibility for their vote. But if you're against it, you don't necessarily have to. It's kind of a funny name that I think comes from gaming and mostly doesn't involve, well, occasionally I think there could be rage, sometimes just annoyance. So anyway, that's what Moloch DAO did in 2019, and I'm doing a little bit of work with Moloch DAO's been kind of dead for probably about a year. just it kind of lost. I don't know. It seems to have just lost steam. But there's some money left in that DAO that could be going to grants. So I'm doing a little bit of work on the side with them to bring that back and to work with other people to sort of figure out how to bring that DAO forward and get re-engagement. But in the meantime, Moloch DAOs, you can copy the software of a DAO, and you can copy the smart contracts. So basically, these other DAOs, a lot of DAOs jumped off from Moloch DAO, and now the type of DAO they are is called Moloch DAOs because they forked from Moloch DAO.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll hear Moloch DAOs, which is different from Moloch DAO, which is different from the DAO. That's why I felt like I needed slides. So Moloch DAOs, I'm just giving 3 quick examples. I talked about Raid Guild already, that works like a software company. Metacartel has a granting organization, and then Metacartel Ventures is a venture DAO, and then Metagamma Delta gives grants and is really a social and education organization. And there's a ton of them. I have some links if anybody wants them, but you go to DAOHaus.club, you will see all kinds of DAOs and different sorts of organizations. It's interesting to see what people are doing. Eventually, a group of people, I think Metacartel mainly, took the Moloch DAO software and upgraded it to Moloch DAO version 2 and migrated everybody to Moloch DAO version 2. But Moloch DAO itself did not ever upgrade. So Moloch DAO need to upgrade to the newest Moloch DAO, and they are working on version 3.
Really quick, because we've had some people that joined a little late. Can you just give us a real quick,
Sure.
Just give us the definition of a DAO again.
Oh, sure. Decentralized autonomous organization. These are flat structure organizations that are organized on smart contracts. A lot of them are organized on Ethereum, but obviously other blockchains have them too. And basically, it's an organization where vote, you group up with people and then create a structure and vote, typically about money, typically about how you're going to distribute money for venture purposes or grant purposes. But it can also do a variety of other things. It could be like a nonprofit, or it can be like a company. And the smart contracts kind of govern how you vote and what happens when you vote. Does that cover it okay?
Yeah. And so with that being said, before you finish your presentation,
sure.
Would you say that in the very near future, you're going to see more people popping up DAOs instead of starting a nonprofit organization through the IRS and getting a 501c3 and all those things? What do you think?
Well, I think legal structure is a lot of people are looking at legal structure. So yeah, in Wyoming, actually, they have created a law where I think it's today, actually, that it starts, that DAOs can be seen as a legal entity. It's basically a form of a limited liability corporation. People don't love that DAO law, but I think people are excited that there is a state that is allowing DAOs to become a legal entity. But other ones might need, like, you might still want to have a 501c3 nonprofit, because you sort of have your real world legal stuff as well as your organizational stuff. Lots of these organizations just don't do an outside corporate structure. Metagamma Delta is not handling a lot of money and just giving some grants. So, we've talked a lot about it, but I think that area of legal structure, that's a good question. It's a really evolving area, and I think there's some intersection. There's a DAO called the LAO, L-A-O. That's a legal DAO, and they work a lot on like DAO legal structures. So,
okay. All right.
Anyway,
Thank you.
so we're deep in the rabbit hole with the Moloch DAOs right now. So the point was that there was a DAO in 2016. It was hacked. That's something you should definitely read about. Then there was Moloch DAO in 2019, and then DAOs that forked from Moloch DAO are called Moloch type DAOs. And there are other kinds of DAOs as well, by the way. So a really interesting thing is that since DAO code is open, it can be forked to create new DAOs, but also to create DAO framework. So a ton of work is happening right now where like I'm the most familiar with Moloch DAOs and with DAOHaus, but DAOHaus is basically allows anybody to create a no code DAO. You don't have to be able to write your own smart contract. The contracts are pretty simple, so they kind of allow you to set it up and do it without having to actually write your own stuff. So DAO frameworks is a big area of work, and lots of people are studying different aspects, including, I don't know, like governance structures that could eventually affect actual governance in the real world, all kinds of coordination issues, and all kinds of software issues.
Okay.
I'm almost done, but what I wanted to say was the other element of these organizations is that while they're autonomous and automated via smart contracts, they are still organizations that are filled with people. So they are not like automatic. You still have to meet with your group of people, and you have to develop some kind of idea of what you want to do and what you would vote on. So a huge area of work now, and so much of this is happening on Discord, is soft consensus and procedures and structures around soft consensus, but also just, how do you really self-organize? Like if you want to self-organize a software company and everybody volunteers, like you sort of belly up to the bar and say, I'm here, here's the kind of work I'd like to do, here's how much money I'd like to get paid. Then you kind of know what everybody else is getting paid. And so you can kind of figure out if you're coming in somewhere in the middle of there, or whether there's something wrong with what you're proposing. And then people will either adopt you or vote for your proposals, or they won't. So it's like all that self-organization, you lose a lot of structure from the hierarchical structure. And that's one of the most fascinating and interesting things to me. I'm sort of tired of working in a hierarchical structure. And I think that all of the ways that people organize and relate to one another and handle conflict and all of that is super fascinating. So I just want to say, what are some of the opportunities? You could join a DAO like Meta Gamma Delta. And my email is on there on purpose so that you can ping me if you have any interest. You can explore DAO communities on Discord. There's so many of them, and Meta Gamma Delta does have a Discord. I'll invite you to that. You can explore DAO communities on Discord without joining a DAO, so you can learn what it's about, what's going on, what you like, what you feel like you could contribute, what you feel like you would get. So you can form a DAO on DAOHaus. I mentioned that, and then I wanted to mention Parwala League. Najah, you're doing something with Parwala, right?
No, I'm not doing anything. I was going to ask you, what is Parwala League?
Oh, didn't you guys have a call with Neuron about that? Somebody did. Parwala League is it's cool because it's not only DAOs. It's meant to aggregate community groups, and what they do is provide matching funding. So when people donate to a grant, in crypto, you have the option to buy some PAN token and donate in PAN. And when you do that, it creates some additional fund matching and doesn't have to be a DAO. They also create coalitions of similar groups to work together and to sort of amplify one another's work. And they have a certain amount of funds that are for sort of activities to kind of seed the group of do-gooders in the world and create connections to aggregate as many community groups as they can. And so it includes DAOs, but also includes other organizations. I'm in it's called Women-Led Coalition of Parwala League, and it's just different organizations that work around women in the space, but there are all kinds of others. There's some about NFTs, there's some different ones. So that's Parwala League, and part of our fundraising is working through Parwala League. I think that was all I really had to say, except to remind you that DAO is Decentralized Autonomous Organization. I didn't it seems in depth, but actually it's a giant rabbit hole. There's so much to know. But to me, I'm really fascinated with this as potentially the future of work. And maybe, maybe really tackling some of the hard problems that seem impossible to solve. It's hard sometimes to be hopeful about that, but I think ultimately people working together is the key to everything. So this is really interesting for me. Hope you guys thought so too.
Well, we did. And I just have a couple of questions. So you mentioned a little earlier that you may be transitioning from a regular 9 to 5 to get into the space. And will you be delving into the DAO life full time? Is this the space that
I don't know. I mean, I love DAOs. I cannot stay interested in only one thing, right? The whole time. I bought Bitcoin in 2014 because I just wanted to experiment with it. I got interested in Ethereum along the way. I went through a whole phase where I was obsessed with token curated registries, which didn't, well, actually that sort of led into the DAO thing. I'm interested in a lot of different blockchains, and then I'm always really still fascinated with Bitcoin and where that's going. I'm just not able to make myself a maximalist because I'm interested in all the possibilities. So we'll see. I think there's lots of opportunity, and I think this is the year that I feel that there's more opportunity. So we'll see where it goes.
All right.
I appreciate having a fiat currency job. I do. But I love crypto so much that I just want to center myself there, as you've done. That's very inspiring what you've done.
Well, thank you. And I've, I absolutely love this. I can't imagine what else I could be doing at this point after just having so much fun. It's great to just be doing something that you love to do. Doesn't seem like work. So I really appreciate being in this space. And again, all the things that you do and have done with this organization called the Rabbit Hole. Can you share a little bit with us about what the Rabbit Hole is?
So the Rabbit Hole in 2019, we put together a group of women, put together 10 different meetups in Los Angeles, including a few really huge events. That was really fun and exhausting, but really worthwhile. Like the networking was amazing. And I just wanted to create a group so that, first of all, I really am always working on behalf of diversity and inclusion. And like, I think you get the best solutions and the best answers to the problems by including the greatest number of people. And that's not always, you don't always see yourself when you go, for instance, to a meetup and you're a woman or whatever, you don't always see yourself represented. And I mean, literally this week, somebody asked me if women invest in crypto or do they just like blockchain? And I was like, oh, what year is it? We do it all. So, and I realized like, well, people just don't know. That's an honest question, but, life has gone on. So I love to work on behalf of that. And that's what the Rabbit Hole was. It really had men speakers and men could come to the meetups, but it just was meant to be, very welcoming and friendly and like educational. There's no stupid questions. And so I love that. The pandemic really just took me on a completely different turn. And if I can just comment on that really quick.
Yes.
I just tooled up when we were shut down March 2020, as many businesses were. I had this feeling that we needed to get back to work, we would have to do a safety work. I kind of knew it, but there was no information available about what. But I had this vision that, like, if I would maybe contribute in this area, maybe 100 people on our show, our cast and crew would get their jobs back and be able to support their family. So I started that work with the other producers, and we just gathered information from anywhere we could find it for months until there was some guidance that finally came out in early June. And then it became legal for us to shoot in the city of Los Angeles at the studio that we work at. And I basically did one of those college cram sessions on the weekend and wrote our COVID safety protocols by the way, no background in anything like that before this. And then I went to the unions, to SAG-AFTRA and the Directors Guild, and negotiated the right for our show to return. And our show became the first scripted show in the United States to go back to work. And we did it. Yeah, it was amazing and hard.
You did an amazing job.
I never want to live through that again. But I
remember calling you through that time, and you were like, you know what? I can't do anything except this right now.
No, it was really like a 24/7, yes. Like a real. But like a lot of people, it gives you a chance to reevaluate and think about life. And so I'm proud of that work, and people did work, and we did work safely, and it was a big accomplishment. So I'm happy that, as I don't know, the emergence from the pandemic is slow a little bit, or it feels slow, but I'm happy to kind of move on with stuff that I'm really passionate and excited about.
All right. Well, thank you. We have a couple of questions from the audience. And for those of you that are on Clubhouse, if you have any questions about DAOs, you can definitely raise your hand. We'll bring you to the stage, even though Ann is on the Zoom. The Zoom is in my link if you want to at least see what we look like.
Tia's asking a question about good books. And I think podcast and online is the place to, like, Medium. It's just, there's so much material and it's moving so fast that it's hard to find a book about it. But the book that I just read was called Out of the Ether. And I liked that one a lot. And then I'm trying to remember the name of the other one. The Defiant, Camilla Russo wrote a book about Ethereum that is also interesting. For DAOs and cryptocurrency, it depends what you want to learn, but I think the Little Bitcoin book is always a good book to read for everybody. Everybody should read that one. What else? What do you read? What have you read? I'm looking at my little pile of books over here.
I have a ton. Bitcoin and Black America. I'm all for.
That's over there.
Yeah.
That's got a spot on my very special shelf.
Yes. So yeah, there's a lot of great books that are out there now. But yeah, so people are really interested. And if you just have a few minutes, this is a hot topic that and we have some more questions, but a hot topic because there's a possibility you can grace us with talking a little bit about understanding NFTs from the beginning, like nice, simple, because you have a good way of explaining things, I know. So if you can just kind of share with some of the women and men what an NFT is and why it's significant and what's really going on, because it's a hot topic.
Okay, NFTs. So non-fungible tokens. I guess the thing to know about that is a cryptocurrency, like say Bitcoin, it's a fungible token, right? Like dollars are fungible too. If you have a pile of dollars, it doesn't matter which dollar you use to pay for something, they're kind of all interchangeable. But a non-fungible token is a token that is not interchangeable. And the example that's often used is your diploma. Let's say if you have a diploma or a certificate of some kind, you can't just swap that for some other certificate. And so art, baseball cards, they are not, they're an NFT is like a whole unit, and it is digital, but it is like cryptocurrency in that it is on the blockchain. It does reside at a specific address, and it's a real thing. So the way that I like to explain this is, so obviously email was a really great invention, right? So now if I have a file and I want to send it to you, I can just email it to you. The only problem with that is I have the file, you have the file. When that's a file, that's great. But when that's money can't work like that, right? Money needs to go away from me, and now you have it. Let's say I'm paying you for something. So what Satoshi's white paper did was to really pull together lots of different technologies from different places, lots of different ideas, and crack kind of the code on how to create a digital currency that would be highly secure, not hackable, and which would be capable of moving from one person to another, one wallet to another wallet. So, what an NFDAO is. So yeah, so an NFT is really a true piece of cryptocurrency on the blockchain that is addressable and that is not easily hackable or taken by somebody else. So you truly own it, even though it doesn't have a physical copy necessarily.
Thank you for that.
Margaret's asking what an NFDAO is. Sorry, NFDAO is a DAO that I happen to belong to. It's an NFT-based DAO. So that DAO raises money and gives grants to support NFTs that it thinks will, be cutting edge or make a difference in the ecosystem. So NFDAO is a DAOHaus DAO. You can find them on DAOHaus.club.
And spell DAOHaus for us, please, if you will.
DAOHaus.
Okay.
.club.
Okay. All right. Well, that is that's awesome, and thank you for helping explain it, because I told you I have heard about DAOs for the longest and could not figure out what in the world. I couldn't make sense of it, and so you did a great job of breaking it down. And I don't want to go down any more rabbit holes right now. I need to come up for air. So I just appreciate the explanation. If there are not any other questions, anybody on Clubhouse that has any questions about a DAO? And my sinuses have been going nuts today since early this morning. So anybody else with any questions on any of the platforms?
So I always want to encourage you, I was just thinking, I'm not an expert in DAOs, but I just got interested in it. I've done a bunch of research, involved myself with the ecosystem, and actually picked up some paying work in that. I encourage everybody to do that and to think about that. Nobody actually is fundamentally an expert on anything. We've just spent time on certain things. So I hope everybody will pick up anything that's interesting to you in this space and go for it. Just learn about it, get involved. You'll seem like an expert.
You just said something. You said I picked up some what? Some work.
Paying work.
So
yeah, I picked up paying work.
So you can't get off without explaining how that went about. Like, how did you pick up some work after researching?
I just am working. Well, I got really just networking in that ecosystem, which is the Discord thing, and then finding out like Raid Guild, for instance. I mean, Raid Guild mainly needs developers, so anybody that has developer skills could be picking up freelance work very quickly. But they're starting to need other kinds of people too, like project managers or marketing people, other skills. And it's all very like freelance. You can check out a lot of these groups and just figure out who has money and who has needs and who has projects that they're assigning people to.
So would you just get on Telegram, you find a group, and then you would pitch a proposal?
I mean, it depends. Like, you can apply for proposals. Like, you say, Crypto Blockchain Plug wants to do, a study, Bitcoin in Black America study. Let's just say that you want to survey, a large number of people and produce conclusions. You could go to various entities and apply for grants to do that.
Okay.
And then for me, I'm just picking up some, like, I started with administrative work and now I'm doing a little project management work, and it's just on the side of the fiat currency job, but what I like to call my fiat currency job. But yeah, I just found some needs, and then kind of like volunteer to do things. I always volunteer to help with anything that needs to get done, and then pretty soon people figure out you're useful and you track into other things.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And I just really want to ask you if there was a word or two or sentence that you could say to some women that are listening, that are thinking about getting into the space full-time and or part-time, or just getting involved and just thinks that it's, too hard. What would you say to that woman? What would you want them to know?
That woman is me for the last 7 years. So like what I always say to myself in the past is like, yeah, here it is for me. I knew about Bitcoin. I knew about cryptocurrency. I studied it. I loved it. I believed in it. And I don't think that I always backed myself enough. So I didn't buy enough cryptocurrency. I didn't always like keep paying attention. I didn't always stay on the road. And where I'm at today is I don't want to do that anymore going into the future. I know what I know. I know I get a gut feeling when things are good and there's potential, and this is that space. So if you get that feeling that, you know, you should be all in on this, you should be all in on this and you should go for it. You should back yourself. I'm not saying you should be all in because I say so. I'm saying you should listen to yourself and really back yourself on what you believe and what you feel is worth investing in and what's right. I mean, I just feel like, I don't like to say as women we, but the fact is, as women we sometimes are too like cautious and careful and thoughtful, and I think all those are good qualities. But you know, I'd like to buy a lot more Bitcoin in 2014.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. And you know, anytime I can do anything to help, please feel free to reach out to me. I am here. And I, again, appreciate all the work that you have put into helping women realize, you know, what needs to be done and how we can achieve in this space. And actually being one of the first women groups that I actually joined in this space. So I really appreciate you again and all that you do. And I think that's about it because we didn't have any questions on Clubhouse. And thank you to everybody on Clubhouse.
I hope that was useful and instructional. No
Oh,
doubt for some people it's too much detail, for other people not enough detail, but you know, such is the nature of learning about crypto. I will support anybody and help anybody. I love that about this community. People have helped me. We all help each other. And it's just a really special community. So you have my email, annwillmott@gmail.com. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm happy to help anybody.
And that's with 2 L's
and 2 T's.
Right. So that's Ann with 2 N's and then Willmott, WILLMOTT at Gmail.
It's all about the double letters.
Yes, all about the double letters. So again, Ann, we thank you very much for joining Wine, Women, and Crypto. I didn't drink any of my wine today. I didn't open it because I've been taking sinus medicine all day. I don't want to fall out on you all. But this is a wine today that I was graced with. It is called Black Girl Magic. And it is by the McBride sisters. It's really awesome. They're here in California too, by the way. And so I'm going to be tasting this when I'm not medicated. So, well, you all have an incredible rest of your evening. Each and every one of you, we thank you for joining the Wine, Women, and Crypto Hour with Mrs. Ann Willmott. And again, thank you, Ann. I appreciate you. And you all have a blessed and prosperous rest of your day. Peace and blessings.
Thanks, Najah. Have fun drinking that Black Girl Magic.
Oh, man, I will tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.